This is the Thriving Money Show. What's going on, everybody? Today we have a wonderful show lined up for you. We have a guest going to talk about how she made $300K, more than that actually, but $300K in 30 days in the insurance and annuity business, and how you can too. We're going to talk about some success stories and stories of overcoming some different things that you can do in this industry. I'm just going to start off by telling you the insurance financial industry is the best industry that anybody can get involved in if they want to learn to help a lot of people and make a lot of money fast. And if you're looking to change your life, not just by the financial decisions that you make, but also the financial decisions that you help others to make. There's nothing more fulfilling than being able to help somebody to reach those goals. So I am excited, without further ado, to share with you. Well, those of you who don't know me, I am Marvin Mitchell. I am your retirement, your financial strategist. Been able to build an 8-figure business myself. Been able to help a lot of people hit just outstanding goals. Been able to help people to protect their portfolios, get tax-free savings. We've been able to help people to save hundreds of thousands in taxes. We've been able to help people to increase their income by as much as 30% and protect your portfolios from stock market crashes, all while developing an income plan that's going to give you freedom, fun, and increased finances. So our special guest today, her name is Latoya Jackson. Now, it doesn't say that on the screen. It says LN Resources, but that is Latoya Jackson, I can promise you. And no relation to Michael Jackson. She is going to come on here and just give us her story and tell us how she did it. So first off, Latoya, if you will introduce yourself, talk about where you came from, and you know, were you always doing 300K in 3 months? I mean, tell us your story a little.
Hello, everyone. My name is Latoya Jackson. No relation to Michael. Thank you for that disclaimer, Marvin. Thank you for having me here. So yes, it has just been a life-changing experience for me. But I am from Tampa, Florida, born and raised. Is where I am from. And with that, I ended up moving here. I'm here. I live in Atlanta currently, in Atlanta, Georgia.
And I'm in Tampa right now, which is
you're in Tampa. That's so funny. Yep. And so I currently reside in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have been in Atlanta now for about 18 years. But I do go back and forth a lot because all of my family is still in Tampa. But with moving here, you want me to go into my whole story? How much do you want to know?
We got time. People want to know.
Yeah. So I actually was in a marriage. I had my 2 children, and I was in a marriage that was not working out. And so with that, my mother ended up moving to Atlanta. She had moved here before me. And in the situation that I was in, she was like, you come up here, you bring those babies, you finish going to your classes with me. And so that's what I did. And I packed up and I moved up to Atlanta with my mom. That was short-lived. Didn't stay there long before I went out on my own. And it was a struggle. I struggled with me and my 2 babies for quite some time. But with all of that, I did end up getting on my feet. I did end up getting a job with the company that I was with. Have been with for let me see, for a very long time, like maybe 16 years now. Yeah. So I probably struggled for like the first 2 years of me living here. So about 16 years. And so with that, I was able to get on my feet and I was fine. I ended up remarrying here in Atlanta. And then with that situation, unfortunately, once again, it did not go as planned. And so with that, the thing about that situation was I was very comfortable. So we were living a good life. Like I had a decent job. He had a decent job. So we were living in a very, nice neighborhood, soccer field, suburban, area where the kids were not born, but they were raised there from little, because my daughter was 2 years old when we moved here. So they went to elementary there, they went to middle school there, they went to high school there. And so with that, with going through that particular divorce, it was a situation to where it was a 2-income household to make it work. So I had to figure some things out. I had to figure out, okay, am I going to pack up and am I going to move? And me and these babies going to go find somewhere where I can live on my 1 income, or do I not downgrade my lifestyle or and uproot my children and find a way to make this work and get some supplemental income? And my decision was, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to figure this out. And so I did. And so with that, I landed into the insurance world, I didn't know anything about insurance. All I knew was you get a death benefit with, God forbid, if somebody passes away. That's all. That's as much as I knew about it. And so I felt like, I'm going to just go in here and sell some, death benefit policies. That was my thought going into it. Got into it, and that is what I was initially learning to do. And so within being in the industry, I ended up hearing one day from a speaker that came into this particular training that I was in, because I trained obsessively in it, because I'm like, if I'm in it, I'm gonna learn it, I'm gonna train. So one of the trainings, someone was in that training speaking about a different way to use life insurance that I had never heard before. And I was like, what? This can't be real. I'm like, no way you can do all of this with these policies. And I'm like, I'm already licensed. You telling me I could have been doing this? Like, what? And it just blew my mind, and I became obsessed with it. So I ended up following that particular person to say, hey, I need to learn more about this. What is this? And with that particular, they ended up, I ended up connecting with them. I ended up learning things that I just would never have thought to learn. I trained like crazy every day. I had trainings going, listening, educating myself constantly until I just couldn't learn anymore, because I was just that obsessed with it. And then eventually, that's when I came across Marvin. Even though during that time, I was selling policies, but I mean, I might have been selling maybe 3 a month. Like, it wasn't, it was a little extra something. It was like helping me sustain and get the additional income I needed in my household. I would say, okay, yeah, here's an additional, $2,000 a month, or, $2,500 a month in my pocket. That was great for me, at that time. And so connected with Marvin, and with that connection, Marvin just, I did a little, I won't call it an interview, a test, whatever. And my life has just been changed. Marvin, you just brought me in, you mentored me. You exploded my mind even more. Just watching you, listening to you, being on trainings with you every day, and just expanding my mind to a world where I never even thought I could expand it even more. Like limitations that I had in my mind removed, like things that the way I thought about things and the way that I saw things, I didn't even see them the same anymore. And it just impacted my business so much. Just being in alignment is crazy, but it was a lot of alignment, but a lot of the things that I learned just from you taking me under your wing, it just took me from here to here. And I just continued to dig in it, because I'm like, I'm here. I can't go backwards, right? I have too much on my shoulders. I have too many people that I'm caring for. I have a household. I have kids. I have, my mom. I have my family. So I'm like, I have a lot of people that are dependent on me right now. So it's like, I can't lose. I can't mess up. So I have to give it 110% of everything I got. And that's just what I do every day.
That's awesome. So let's go back, because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about like how you became so successful at what you're doing, and how quickly you were able to rise through the ranks. So you said earlier, obviously, number one, congratulations, because you have come from some things: divorce, being a single mom, overcoming, taking care of your family. I know, doing so many things, and by the way, working a job while you were doing the insurance business. So I don't know how you did it, but we're going to talk about that. But women have superpowers. And this is just an example. I don't believe that I could have done half of what you did to get to where you are. So kudos to you for like just working hard, showing the effort, and just being great at what you're doing. So you mentioned that you were out and you just simply you heard something that just caught your attention, that made you say, wow, I didn't know you could do this with life insurance. This is different. So I'm sure people are listening and they're thinking, wow, what is it? What was different? What did you hear that made you so obsessed with learning about life insurance?
It was learning about, in that initial training, it was just me learning about cash value. I didn't know what cash value was inside of life insurance, how to utilize it, the power that it had. And so that is basically what I was learning, was how it's able to grow for you. I was learning about the tax-free growth. I was learning about how it's not tied to the market, right? So no matter what the market does, the market can take a complete crash and your money is still growing and working for you. It's not impacted or affected or lost by the market. You're getting the tax-free growth within it, and the leverage power that I learned in that same day. I learned all this in the same day. The leverage power of being able to use that dollar 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and make money off that same dollar twice. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? You mean I can take this money out of here? My balance, my principal is still going to grow interest. Like I didn't even touch it, but I got this cash in my hand that I can go over here and do all these amazing things with. And now I just made money 2 times. What? Why is nobody, like, it was just the craziest
Wait a minute.
thing.
We got to pause, because that may not be clicking for a lot of people. It clicked for you. I want to know how it clicked for you. But also, there are people who are saying things like, I did a post that is getting a lot of views right now, going pretty viral. And there's so many negative comments, a lot of positive comments, but some negative comments. Some comments are saying, I don't get it. Why would you use your life insurance? Why can't you just use cash? You're borrowing from your own money. So don't you have to pay interest on that? And I'll just use my cash and buy term and invest the difference. So what did you hear that kind of, you took a different approach that made you become obsessed? How did it click for you? And how would you answer some of those objections that you typically hear from most people?
Yeah. So what made it really truly click for me to really understand why I would want to use this to go out and do the work for me, as opposed to pulling that money out of my savings account, was that line of zero. Like, going back to that line of zero. When you go and you pull money out of your bank account, now you're back down to that line of zero, right? So you want to remove that line of zero. When you think about, they were talking about, when you think about banks, banks have learned how to remove that line of zero. Wealthy people don't go back to the line of zero.
What's the line of zero?
So what the line of zero is every time you use that dollar, it's gone, right? You got it here, you got money in your bank account, it's gone. So here's the line of zero. You have the spender, the saver, and the wealth creator. And the wealth creator, that's going to be, or you can say the debtor, saver, wealth creator, both of them. But that line of zero is here. So the spender and the saver, of course, they're making up about 96% of Americans. And what's happening is, that saver, they are saving in that bank account, right? They're saving. But what happens? The water heater goes out, the car breaks down, you need to go make a major capital purchase, refrigerator, whatever it is. You got to go into that account back down to that line of zero. And then you got to start saving all over again before you even can get back to where that balance was, let alone get past that point again. But what happens when you get back to where you were? Well, something's going to happen. Life's going to keep lifing back down that line of zero, right? Same thing for that spender or that debtor, right? You spend all that money getting out of debt, or you spend all that money on that paycheck. You have nothing to show for it, right? You just gave Capital One, American Express, whoever, they got all the money, it's gone. Your account says zero now. You have nothing to show for it, right? So it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum you're on. Rather, you're the spender or the saver, everybody's using that dollar one time and it's gone. So to be able to produce like the wealthy, they are making sure that their money is somewhere where it's always working and growing for them. They're using other people's money to go out and do the work, right? Thus removing that line of zero. So you're never going down. It's always going in that upward motion. And so that is what I was like, this is insane. So you can go in, if you got $20,000 in that account and you need to take out $2,000 to go into a stock or go get a new fridge or whatever it is, that balance doesn't decrease down. to $18,000, like it does in your savings account, like it does in a stock, like it does in a 401k. Anywhere else you take out that same $2,000, your balance is going to reflect that deduction. And in this account, it's still growing at 20, 21, 22. That money's still growing, but you still got your 2,000 to go get your new refrigerator, to go get your new, whatever. I'll tell you, I had to go and get a washer and dryer. My washer and dryer went out, and I had to go get. I went and got a good top of the line, was $2,000 by the time you put in the shipping and take out the old one, and I got a nice set. And the lady's like, would you like to open up an account and put this on a card? Like most people, she's like, you want to put this on a card and finance it, and it'll only be this much. But why would I pay you all of this money, and then I'm gonna look at my bank account back down to what? Nothing. So I financed it myself. I took money out of my own policy, got my new washer and dryer, and now I just pay it back to myself. But now I made the interest instead of Lowe's or Brand Smart or Best Buy. Now I made that money instead of them making that money, and I got my washer and dryer and made some money off of it while I did it.
Okay. So what she just gave was very powerful, you all, very powerful. So what she's saying is, and we're going to get into in a second about how she made $300K in 3 months in this industry and how you can too. The simplest way I can explain what she just said, which was powerful. If you have $100,000 earning 5% in cash, 1 year later, you're at $105,000. If you have $100,000 earning 5% in cash and you spend $30,000, well, now you only have $70,000 earning 5% because the $30,000 is gone, right? Mm-hmm. If you have $100,000 in a properly structured cash value earning 5%, 1 year later, it's $105,000. If you have $100,000 in a cash value policy earning 5% and you borrow $30,000 against it, you did the same thing. But now, 1 year later, you still have $105,000 in that life insurance policy because you never touched it. So imagine if you keep using it and then paying it back, using it and paying back. Well, every year you're compounding on top of that 100,000, 105,000, 111,000, 118,000, up. Even though you're spending the same money, whereas in cash, if you spend the money, now you have to pay it back before you start earning interest on 100,000 again. So remember, even if you do pay yourself back, most people, even when they pay themselves back, they might pay themselves back, but they never pay themselves back the interest that they lost while they were paying themselves back. I mean, the interest that they would have made while they're paying themselves back. With a life insurance, you are constantly allowing the forward momentum to compound. So what it creates is a snowball effect where that snowball keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, you're compounding $300,000 of interest. Versus in cash, you're still at $100,000 because you kept using it and paying yourself back. So that is a powerful concept that not many people understand. And Latoya, kudos to you. You understood it. So when it clicked for you, did you immediately quit your job and say, I'm going into the insurance industry? What did you do?
No, but it made me obsessed to the point to where I wanted to learn as much about it as possible because I just wanted to tell the world. I wanted to educate as many people on this as possible. I wanted to teach it. I wanted to tell it. So I just submerged myself in it and learned as much as I could learn so that I could share it. And I started sharing it immediately with my family, with my friends, with anybody that I was around that I could talk to. I was sharing the information and just letting them know about it because I was just super excited about
it. Okay. So you wanted to share it with the world. Now let's get into, you started in, how do you actually got started in the industry? What was your start? What were some of the struggles that you had? These are for people who are aspiring to, there are people who are looking at this right now that want an opportunity to start earning multiple six figures in a business opportunity. There are people that are listening who already have their insurance license, but they're not seeing the success that some of us are seeing right now. And then there are people who are just trying to understand how this whole thing works. So we just sort of explained to you a little how it works, and but this is not what this show is about. We'll explain a little bit more about how it works, but what we're really going to explain today is how she made the money for herself and for her client. So let's talk about your start in the industry and give us that first year and what it was like, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, the ugly. Don't hold it back. Be real, be transparent, authentic. Don't give them all the good stuff, give them all stuff. So let us know.
So when I first got into the insurance industry, when I came in and I finally said, okay, I'm gonna, start writing these policies and I'm doing it, I started buying leads. So that's what I would do. I would go in and I would purchase leads and I would make the phone calls. And I was making a lot of calls. So it was not easy because you get people that don't answer, you get people that answer and don't want nothing to do, or they say, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't request this. It's supposed to be a warm lead, right? So I didn't request this. I don't know what you're talking about. So I was dealing with all kinds of things. But it's all a numbers game. So eventually, you're going to get that person and I had a script. So I had a script that I would follow, and I would follow that script and, just being personable, being bubbly, smiling through the phone. And it would, work out a lot of times. I follow that script to the T. That was one of the things that I learned very early on. Keeping it simple and just following the system. If somebody says do ABC, just do ABC. So I had to learn that really, really quick, because when you don't, it's just going to be a lot of wasted time. So quickly I had to discover, keep it simple, keep it short, follow the script, smile, and keep it moving. But with that, it allowed me to at least make, I was making at least $2,000 extra a month. I was still tight now. It was still a struggle with my household and with my bills, but I was able to make it. So that was the main thing with it.
And you're still working full time during this time.
I was, but now I'm in this 3-level house and it's nice, in this big house. It's nice neighborhood. So it still costs money to keep it up. I still had the yard man, the security people, the cable bill. It was like all kinds of stuff going on. So it was a lot to still keep up. So I was still, tight, even though I was making it, but I was still just barely making it to have enough to survive.
How did you deal with the fact of thinking that I'm helping people to get financially free, but right now I am struggling to stay alive, to keep my bills paid? You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people have imposter syndrome about that, because they go in saying, who am I to advise somebody on how to get financially strong when I'm trying to get myself out of a situation, a divorce, keeping my bills paid. So how do you know what I mean, mentally deal with that? Or was that even something that you even thought about or dealt with?
I was just going to say to you, that was a lot of mental work, because I had to do a lot of for the first time, I had to focus on myself, which was something I never did, because you have to be mentally strong in those types of situations. And so I was, in my mind, I had gotten to the point to where I was not allowing my situation to dictate my outcome. I wasn't allowing my situation to lead the way, right? In my mind, mentally, I was already saying, I am a multimillionaire. I was already doing affirmations. Because when I went through my divorce and I said, you know what, I'm going to make this work, come heck or high water, this has to work. And I didn't know what I was going to do, because I knew my income was not going to keep that house up. For the first time in my life, I actually focused on me, which was something I had never done before, because, you got the husband, you got the kids, you got work. So the parents come last. So I always came last. And so for the first time, I actually started meditating, praying more, like clearing out my mind, started doing affirmations, and I started believing it. And it really built my confidence. So even though the struggles were there, the challenges were there, every day was not a good day. There were days where I didn't know, heck, mortgage was late a few times, where I'm just like, how am I gonna come up with the money to pay this work? Like, there was times where I even thought we might end up getting put up out of here. But with that, I never allowed it to affect my mental, because in my mental, I always knew I always had more than enough. I always knew that I was a multimillionaire. So I let that lead my path every single morning. I walked in that. So even though I'm sitting on the phone with a client, or I'm sitting on Zoom with a client, and my mortgage may not even be paid, I'm sitting on this Zoom with the client with the confidence of, I'm a multimillionaire. I'm sitting on the phone knowing, I am the expert. I had to have confidence, and I didn't see myself in the situation that I was in. I saw myself for who I was working to be. And I walked in it, I dressed it. If you saw me, you wouldn't have known my situation. Like I never allowed myself to be that victim. I always spoke the part, walked the part, talked the part until it became the part. I was like, this is happening. So it was all very, very mental.
All right, audience that's listening right now, I just wanted you to know that this is live right now. So if you have a question for Latoya as we're speaking, put it on. I know we got about, a ton of people watching on YouTube right now, about 35 on Instagram right now, some on Facebook, LinkedIn. So we're all around on all platforms right now. So if you have a question, we do have our producers looking at the screens. So make sure you go ahead and ask your question, and we're going to get it. We're going to get it answered today for you. So I love what you just said, Latoya. You said that you believe you were a millionaire. You operated as a millionaire, even though you were not a millionaire. But you knew deep down, because of your affirmations, because of the mental work that you did, you walked in there like you were a millionaire, right? And that's the power of affirmations. That's the power of belief. The Bible says, speak those things that are not as though they are. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they say things like, well, that's faking it. That's being inauthentic. No, what that is, that's believing that you already have what you were promised and walking in that nature and allowing it to come to you instead of walking like you broke, busted, and disgusted. Right. So that is amazing what you said. As a person thinks in their heart, so is he. So you thought of, or she, so you thought of yourself as this financially savvy person, and by default you became much more financially savvy and great as you were teaching others. And here's the thing, you all, another thing that you have to think of is you are always, even if you think you're not doing that great, you're always doing just a little bit better in some areas than someone else. And you don't have to be this multi-million-dollar person to give financial advice. You just have to be somebody who is growing, who is learning, who is teaching, who is guiding, who have access to the people who do have the information, and then they get that information and pass that information down. And that's what you did. But it's very hard in those situations not to become over analytical. You can easily become over analytical because you're afraid to make a mistake. So how did you stop yourself as you began to finally meet with clients, meet with potential clients, to not fall into the trap of being over analytical, feeling like you needed to know all of the answers? Like, tell us about that. How did you stop yourself?
That was a challenge because I am a talker. And so sometimes, even now, it can still be a challenge because I have even talked my way out of an application, out of a deal with a client where I had the client, they were ready, but I wouldn't shut up, and I talked my way right back out of the deal. So I had to learn the hard way to shut up and just keep it simple. Stick to what you need to stick to, get in and get out. It was basically just through trial and error because it was to the point to where I'm like, okay, it didn't, the more I realized on appointments where I spoke more and I did more of the talking and the appointment was that those appointments never went well. And I had to realize all the appointments where I just stuck to what I was supposed to say, kept it very simple and relatable. Those appointments did very well. So I eventually said, okay, now if you're gonna be successful, you got to shut up and reel this thing in. And so that's how I learned, was just I literally had the deal and lost it all in one meeting.
And give us an example of a time where you were being over analytical and how you cut it off and how you started being more simple, which is one of the key principles, you all, of success in this industry. One of the key principles is to keep it simple. KISS, KISS. Keep it simple, silly. I don't like saying that word, stupid. Go ahead.
Giving too much information. I gave out too much, and sometimes just stick to the basics. And what I was doing was giving them too much information on the product and on what it does and on things that they didn't even ask or need to know. And it was a situation, wait, let me just for an example. Because, and the thing is, the more questions that the more information you put out, the more it leaves open for questions of the client to ask. And then they start asking questions and then they get uncomfortable and reel back out. So it was just one where I was just giving out too much information about the policies and what they do is what it was really. And it was like, it didn't work out well.
Okay, great. So we're going to talk about how you got your start with me, but there's a question on YouTube by Rob Bell. Shout out to Rob, that says, how do I start? I never even thought about the insurance business.
Taking action. It does not take much to get started. It is the simple, it's one of the easiest industries to get started in. And it pays out some of the best commissions of any other industry. So it's amazing. But it's so simple to get started. The only thing I had to do, you just go and you study for the test. You go and you study for the test. You take the state test. And then once you pass that state exam, then that's when you're free to go ahead and you get contracted with your carriers and you're able to write. Now, the thing is, you need to do the training. You got to take action. Don't just, go get the license and be like, oh, okay. No, you really, really got to put the work in. So it is a lot of training because it's a lot of information that you have to learn. But that's it. It's really, really simple. And it's really just going to be taking action, not just sitting there saying, okay, I'll do it next
study
week.
For the test?
Depends on you. So for me, and everybody's different. I've seen people where it takes 6 months. I've seen people 3 months. I've seen people a month. For me, because I was balancing a lot. Yeah. See, that wasn't me. I had too much going on in my life. It took me about 2.5 to 3 months of studying for mine. But once you get it, and if you fail it, it's okay. You can take it again. A lot of people, they pass on the first time, but some people don't. And so don't feel like if you don't pass it the first time, you can't go back and take it again. You can. And it's one of the easiest industries to get into. And once you're in it, you're going to make some of the best commissions than you can make in any other industry. It's amazing. And all you're doing is educating people. It's like, wow, that's all I got to do? Okay.
How long did it take you to start earning some traction? Because I know you said you were making about $2,000 a month on the side. And I know a lot of people watching today would love to have an extra $2,000 a month on the side. So hey, if you would love to learn how to make an extra even $2,000 a month on the side quickly, put some fireballs in the comments. If you would love to learn how to even make $2,000 a month in additional income, part-time, doing this, right?
So yeah. And that wasn't even a lot. Like that would maybe have been just 2 or 3 policies. It was crazy. So when I first started, it took me to build it up because like I said, I was purchasing leads. So I was going through a lot of calls. But for the clients that I was able to get, of course, you got to get referrals from them. So I was able to start getting referrals from a lot of those clients. Or a lot of those clients, they would come back and they would get additional products. They would tell other people. So I was able to start building out a bit that way. For the people who I did get leads from. But, it wasn't easy. It did take time to build that up, right? Because I made sure I had a schedule. I had to have a schedule. I had to have time blocks. And I stuck to those time blocks. And every day at a certain time, I would put those calls in and I would make, I had to, at that time, buy those leads. I had to pay for them. And so I had to make sure, that I was calling them. So it was a balance. But I will always tell you that, even no matter, you got to be careful. And I don't do leads like that anymore, but buying them like that. But if you do, just know that you got to be careful because not all sources are going to give you good leads. I just so happened to have been in a program where the leads were actually good leads. So it worked, but it was still a lot of work.
Let's talk about that because there's a lot of people who are, there's basically different ways to get into, have leads to call. You've heard about the traditional, just calling your family and your friends, knocking on doors, even going to networking events, You know, and not and all of those things are good. Um, but now you have times where you can buy leads, and people have social media, and there's different ways to do this. So I think Alex Hormozy said it in $100 million leads book that you could, what did he say? You could go to your warm, you could call warm leads, which is your family, your friends. You can call cold leads, which that's doing cold calling, like door knocking and different things like that. Or you can talk to warm leads, one to me. So I'm sorry, that's one to one. So you can do one to one cold leads or one to one warm leads that you pick up the phone talking to one to one. Or you can do one to many warm leads. That's social media. That's people who know you. Or you can do one to many cold leads, and that's like Facebook ads, right? So you bought leads. So you were really talking to one. With you consider that warm leads or cold leads? Because you
They
bought them.
were they were warm. They most of
Okay.
them they were warm. It was a situation, and in the industry, it's all about networking. It's all about collaboration. So it's all about finding out where you're not maybe you're strong at, but then understand where you may not be as strong at, and then
Hmm.
collaborating with somebody that's strong in that area. And so that's what I was able to do, and I was able to get warm leads that way. By
Okay.
collaborating with somebody that was bringing in those warm leads.
So let's
So
talk about that. Tell us how that
mhm,
went when you were. I want to know because there are
yeah.
people who are not getting into the industry, or they're afraid to get into the industry because they don't know where their leads are going to come from. You
Mhm.
just talked about how easy it was. You just bought leads, and it made you an extra couple $1,000s at least a month. So
Yeah.
how do you go about buying leads? How much do you pay for these leads when you buy them? What's your criteria for success? Like, we want to know. Give us some detail. These people
Yeah,
want to
okay.
know how
So
to
the
get in this
person
business.
he was a social media person just like you. So it was somebody that was on social media that
Okay.
I was connected with. And so with that, this person was on social media bringing people in. And so with that, I was able to purchase those leads of people that were coming in warm saying they wanted the product at that time. And I was probably spending maybe 20 bucks at that
Mm.
time. It might have been like 20 bucks a lead. So it was definitely an investment in your business. But I will
That's
say,
it.
even
20 bucks
though
a lead.
it was like 20 bucks, yeah, because I was in
Okay.
a system, I was a part of a program. So if you're a part of the program, you paid like a monthly fee or something to be a part of the program, and then you get a discount on the lead. So I guess an outside
Hmm.
person would have paid more, but I was able
Right.
to get the discounted lead. So I wasn't really paying that. It was an investment, and I always ended up making more. By the end of that month, I made more than what I paid out. So I just kept buying the leads because they were working. But it's just about collaborating and connecting with people who can, bring those leads in, and
How
getting
much were
in
you
rooms.
spending? How much were you spending for
Probably
like for?
about, I was probably spending few $100s a month in leads.
Okay,
Probably a
a
few hundred
few
bucks
hundred
a
dollars
month.
a month. And how much? And
Maybe
you were bringing
$300.
in. So you were spending about
Like
3,500,
25. Yeah, it was
and you were
worth
bringing
it.
in about 2,500 a month. So you were
Hmm.
spending 500, and you were bringing in 2,500. So,
Hmm.
and that was all the time capacity you had.
That was my time capacity because I had a lot going on during that time.
Okay. So if
Mhm.
you had more time capacity, you could have just continued to buy more leads. In a return on investment, it seemed like it was 500, like 5 to 1. So
Hmm.
5 to 1
Yeah.
ROI on that, which means that if you spend 10,000, you could have made 50,000.
I could have. Yeah, absolutely. I could have. Totally could have. I just didn't have the capacity at that time. But every time, every month I would take some of that money, that I made, and I would put it back in to buy more leads. And I just kept that system going. But yeah, you're right.
Mm.
I definitely, the more, if I would have
So,
put in more on those leads, I definitely would have had a much higher ROI.
so how many people that are listening right now would be comfortable spending $1,000 to bring in $5,000? Because that's essentially the ratio that you gave. So $1,000, some work, learning the system, being able to talk to people, making $5,000. That's great. It's a great system. So okay, so why did you stop doing that? That seemed to have worked. So what made you stop that system?
So as I was in that system, that's when I started training and understanding on more of the being your own bank concept, more of opportunity cost, more of the cash value side of it.
Okay, so
And
when you were doing that, you wasn't doing like the leveraging your
I
life
was
insurance.
starting to implement it. So when I first started, remember, this is when I first started. So I was just selling death benefit. I didn't know.
Okay.
Now during this,
Right.
in the midst of it, so like halfway through, I started trying to educate them more on the other things they could do with it, because at this point I'm like, whoa. So then I'm like, I did start implementing it at that point, the other benefits that they can do with it. And I did, and I started educating my clients on it eventually, like maybe midway or halfway through. And then that's when you did a training, and I actually listened to your training, and that's when you invited people to come listen, and watch you, and I did. And so with that, I'm gonna tell y'all what I did. Marvin was on the call, and he was on a live. He was on an Instagram live, and he was on there, and he was talking about life insurance and how to use it on the cash value side and the benefits of cash value. And so with that, he was getting, having leads that were coming in, but there were certain leads that Marvin was not taking at that time, because, his capacity, he could only take what he could take. And so I came in the back, I backdoored Marvin. I came into his DMs. I reached out
slid
to him.
into the DMs.
I slid into the DMs, and I said, hey, you invited us to come on, and watch what you do, because I'm in the industry to help, learn how to be more beneficial in my business. And as I'm watching, I hear you saying, you're only able to take, this type of clientele. So I'm like, I'm not a part of your team. I don't, want to impact on that. I know you have your own team and system and things going on. But if you have anything else, like below that threshold, if it's somebody for, that's just doing $100 a month policy or 200, I mean, whatever, if it's small, I'm like, I can take those. I said, if you give them, to me, I don't, mind, I didn't know what he could have told me no. I didn't know. I didn't know. I was like, Lord, this man is not going to respond. I didn't think he would respond to me. He didn't know me from a can of paint, but he responded. He responded. And with him responding, he's like, I'm going to call you. So he called, and we did a quick chat. He kind of threw me out there, a quick interview type. It wasn't an interview, but I call it an interview. But it was like he kind of put me on the spot, like to kind of see, what I knew. And apparently he must have liked what he heard, because he said, okay, I'm gonna see. Okay, if something comes along, I'll give you something on the side or whatever. I was like, okay, yep. It doesn't need to be, just, what was it? Like it was small. It was small, no, 250. So with that, I was thankful. I was like, hey, fine with me. Mm-hmm. And so it was history from there. From there, I was able to start getting some mentorship. I was able to start getting additional training. I was able to get my mind expanded even more. So everything with Marvin taking me kind of under his wing, which he did, I just learned so much more. And it just expanded. Everything that I was doing was just amplified to a whole nother level. And it just blew my business just out of the water, just from being around him, from being up under. When I tell you, it doesn't matter where you are or who you are. It's all about where you want to be. So it's all about making sure that you are always looking to surround yourself by people that look like where you want to be. It's always getting yourself in the rooms. I did a lot of conferences that year. Anybody that knows me, they're like, you're everywhere. You're always at this conference. I'm always learning. Anywhere I can get in the room around people that look like where I want to be, that's where I'm at. And so that's a real thing, is putting yourself in those environments. And so just being in that environment with Marvin changed my business, changed my mindset, changed my trajectory. It changed everything, just from your mentorship. So it's invaluable what I've learned from being with you.
Okay, so now we're about to get into the nitty gritty of, so we got up to this point. You now started to do well on the lower leads that I gave you. No offense to people who think $250 a month is not.
I was so excited for that.
Lower,
I was
as
so happy
compared to some of the deals that we do, some of our additional leads. Now, Before we get into the step that people have been waiting for, okay, now how do we transition to the point that you can make $300,000 in 3 months? We do got a couple really quick questions. Take a little break on that. So one question is, what is your typical routine as a full-time mom, full-time employee, and a full-time business owner?
It's crazy. So I've had to really discipline myself. So every morning when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is pray. So I may do, like, before I even get out of the bed, me and God already having a whole conversation. So I'm just laying in the bed, probably like 10 minutes, just praying. Once I finally get out of the bed, I get myself ready for my day. And once I come downstairs, I'm doing my quiet time. So I'm doing my coffee time, which I call, it's my coffee time, my quiet time. So I may spend, and some people are like, what? They think this is crazy. So I may spend 30, 45 minutes, almost an hour every morning, just praying, doing affirmations, meditating, clearing my mind. And that's my morning me time. So I try to get up extra early to make sure I have that time to just make sure my mind is just clear. Because that way I know the rest of that's going to set the tone for the rest of my day. That's going to put me in alignment with what I need to be put in alignment with the rest of that day. So that's a priority for me. And then from that point, I go and I start my work, a little bit of work, which has now transitioned into more studying for me for something else. But I do some work for about an hour or two. And then I go through my schedule, and everything. I run by a calendar, so everything's on schedule. So from that point, I'm probably and my kids are bigger now, thank God. So now I'm just on schedule, and I'm doing my meetings and my calls throughout the day, throughout most of the day from that. But I'm running on a calendar, and I stick to my calendar blocks all day. So whatever I put in that calendar, that's what has to happen at that time. So I can't put it on that calendar and then I'm doing something else or get distracted. I have to stick to it. So everything, if somebody say, hey, you do it, I don't care if it's a dinner date, it has to go on that calendar or I'll forget all about it because I live by that calendar. So I just plan it out every day, every week, every month. Like, the calendar is planned out, and I just step by step run by that calendar.
I love it. That's great. So I know one of the questions was, how can I get more information that walks you step by step to cash value insurance? So one thing I will say is make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, the Thriving Money Show. If you haven't, there's several videos that I've done that's going to walk you through this. There's more videos that I continue to produce that's walking you step by step about this life insurance cash value. You can search my name on YouTube, Marvin Mitchell. There are several interviews outside of the Thriving Money Show that I've done that's walked you step by step through the process. There's also a book. If you go to my Instagram, Marvin Mitchell Official, if you go to my Instagram and you actually click on my bio, you can buy a book called Becoming Your Own Banker, How to Go from Debtor Saver to Wealth Creator. That's an ebook that I wrote that's going to take you step by step. And there's also additional books that you can read. One book is What Would the Rockefellers Do? That's a pretty good book. There's another book, Confessions of a CPA, of a former CPA, I guess. That's a really good book as well. Nelson Nash wrote a really good book on it, Becoming Your Own Bank as well. There's so many good books on it. David McKnight wrote a really good book, Power of Zero. So several books that you can read. But that's where I would start. For those of you who are looking to set a meeting with our team, and we can actually set it up for you, and we can help walk you through it, so you don't have to do all of the heavy lifting and the hard work yourself. You just go to www.wealthcreationcall.com. That should be, I'll put it in YouTube. It's just www.wealthcreationcall.com. If you're on Instagram, just click the link in my bio. But that's www.wealthcreationcall.com. If you go there now, you can schedule with our team complimentary. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Now getting back to the story that we had at hand. So now you meet me. You're doing good with these leads. What else happens? Because first off, you came to the table, you showed appreciation with the leads that you had, because you knew you didn't have to have them. Before that, you prepared yourself. You didn't just come begging for leads. You came, you prepared yourself for it on the front end. You weren't afraid to ask questions, but you didn't come with just no value you brought to the table. You knew your stuff because you had been studying behind the scenes. So now that you crush these meetings, what happens next?
So the meetings, they go well. So I start doing a good ratio, high ratio of closings on the leads. And so with that, it brought more opportunity. And so just continuing to stay in track, because you're never going to learn it all. So I'm forever learning. So even today, every day that I wake up, I'm learning something, I'm training. So I continue to stay in my trainings, continuing to do well on the calls, getting a high ratio of closings. And then eventually it just opened up more opportunities for me with Marvin, because Marvin was able to see that I was busting butt, working hard, closing them the way that, a good ratio of closings, the way they needed to be closed. And so, yeah, I was able to go to another level from that. It just, a whole new opportunity opened up.
Okay, so now you move to another level, which means another level meant that I said, well, so she's doing good with these leads. Let me go ahead and give her some leads my normal team would normally have. So she started getting bigger opportunities, $500 a month opportunities, $1,000 a month opportunities, but even more, $500 a month opportunities. One of the things that I noticed is that she was turning those into $1,000 a month. So she wasn't just taking it and accepting what people said that they can do. She was helping them to find the money. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, opportunity cost. So I was able to, even with, the smaller ones, I was able to sit with them. Sometimes people that were coming in and saying, hey, I just have, 250 is my capacity. We would sit down and find the money, and they would figure out, oh, I actually can do $500 a month. So I might have been turning like a $250 case into a $500 case. And so when I was getting the $500 cases, as we're finding that money, that, people are spending money unknowingly, unnecessarily, inefficiently, right? Where that money's just gone and you're never going to see it again. But being able to find those inefficient dollars, take them to make them efficient. So now that money's going to be working for you for the rest of your life, and you're still able to use it. So just because you're putting it somewhere where it's working for you for the rest of your life doesn't mean you don't have access to it. So you're still using it while it's working for your future person, while it's making you hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax-free income. And so being able to find that and redirect it into the policies, it was just awesome. And so Marvin, he liked that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so with that, it definitely brought more opportunities where he's like, okay, you're taking initiative, you're closing, you're getting even more out of these cases. So let's see what else we can do with you.
So obviously I identified myself, and I'm going to plug up my charger while we're talking. So I identified something in you. So, okay, now you're closing these higher cases, then opportunity comes. So start talking about that. You were prepared for the opportunity, and another level, higher level came. And tell us about that.
Yeah. So he came to Brandon and I with an opportunity that I had no idea what it was going to entail, what I was getting myself into. I just knew that Marvin when he has a vision, you just got to go with it, because he is a man of vision. And so I just said, okay, whatever it is, I'm with you. Whatever it is, we're about to do it. And so with that opportunity, he took Brandon and I, and we really sat, and he trained us, like personally sat with us, took time out from his schedule to sit with us, to train us. And we would be doing trainings at like 5 o'clock in the morning, crazy times, because Marvin's traveling, he's busy, he's all over the place. So we had to, whenever he said, okay, I got a minute to train, that's when we had to be ready to train. So it might have been 5 o'clock in the morning because he's in another country somewhere or in another state or a different time zone. And so, but he was getting up and taking the time to say, I'm going to teach you guys this information. And so I was just grateful that he even entrusted me, for the project. So I'm just like, I'm getting up, let's do it. If you can take the time out of your busy schedule to train me, the least I can do is be up and ready to learn. So I was, excited about it. And so Brandon and I, we did it, we trained. And even like sometimes after Marvin was done training us, we would sit and continue to train each other. We would sit and role play, go back and forth to get the system down. We really, really put a lot of time and effort and energy and training into really understanding the concept and what it was and what we needed to do in that.
I love it. I love it. So, all right. So I think people want to know just a little more detail, Latoya. Like, okay, because we're telling people you made $300,000 in 3 months. So you got this opportunity, you got onto this program. Like, what was that like? You're learning something new that you hadn't learned before. You had to, take people through it emotionally. You had to train at 5 a.m, and then you had to get on the phones and talk to people about something that you know is good because I trained you on it. You never did it before. So let's talk about it.
That was one of the most mentally draining things because you're talking to people where you know that this is going to be beneficial for them. It's going to be great for their portfolio. And everybody just was not that easy to get that information over to. But it was about sticking to it, keeping it simple, and just not letting the challenges not letting people who were not interested, or you just got those people, but not letting them get you down because they can ruin your whole day. But it was very mentally draining. By the end of the day, I would be exhausted. By the end, mentally, just where I can do nothing but just go lay in the bed. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know what I had gotten myself into. But it was amazing because I believed in it. So with me speaking to clients about it, I felt amazing about it, but it was so draining at the same time because they got a million questions or they're combating everything. So it was not the easiest thing to go through, and not knowing, what this outcome is going to look like. I'm like, okay, but I'm just going to keep going. So every day I would get up and we would put hours in every single day, hours upon hours, making these calls, being mentally drained, sometimes I want to say beat up mentally, but sometimes like you just beat up mentally. But when I tell you, it has been the most rewarding thing as well, but it was not easy. It was a lot of training. It was a lot of callbacks, phones ringing back to you because so not only are you making calls out, but you got the phone ringing of calls coming back. You only got so many hours in a day. So it's like, it was so many moving parts and so much going on by the time not at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night hit, I was just done and just ready to pass out. But within that,
man, that would make me excited. That's a lot.
But within that, it was amazing because, like you said, I've made on that just specific project alone, I've made over $320,000 in a 3 month. Who can do that, right? So it's like, I don't care what it is in life. There's nothing that's just going to come easy. So don't think, and I don't ever want anybody to think, oh, I'm just going to come in and this is going to be easy and somebody's going to hand everything to. No, it's a lot of work. You got to come in and you got to be willing to do the work. You got to be ready to train. You got to be ready. But if you can come in and you can train and you can get the information and you're really ready to take the action, you're going to be just fine. But that's truly what it is. Nothing in life is just going to be easy and handed to you. So you got to be ready and up for the challenge. And
because what made you different? Because it's not like you're the first person that I gave. Y'all are not the first people that I gave these types of opportunities to. But you all came, and people who I gave it to before, they did good, but not $300,000, $400,000 in 3 months good. So what do you, and you're still, by this time, you're still technically working a job.
Yes.
Are you still working a job?
It's balance.
Technically?
No.
So, all right. So, okay. So let's go back to this. What made you different? What made you different where somebody else had the same opportunity, but they didn't take it by the horn like you did? So what made you different, and how can people who are listening apply what made you different to what can make them different?
Well, I would say I don't even want to call myself different or anything like that, but I would say the first thing is to get yourself in alignment so that when you are in proper alignment, the opportunities are going to come to you when you're in proper alignment, but you got to be ready for the opportunity. You have to be prepared for that opportunity. But with that, also, I think the only thing is taking action, being coachable, trainable, and sticking, like kind of what we said from the beginning, sticking to what you were trained on. So keeping it very, very simple and just taking the action, not sitting on things and applying it. That's okay. I don't really consider myself, I don't know. I don't consider myself.
You were just humble and you was coachable and you were driven and you were willing to put in the work. I mean,
and just ready to take that action.
That's more than 95% of people would do. So you got to realize that you may not look at yourself as anything different, but that is different because common sense ain't always common. And easy work to you, the work that you do is not the work that most people would do. Most people procrastinate. Most people are lazy. Most people don't believe. Most people question it. Most people say, well, how do I know this is going to work for me? They question themselves. They question their ability. They never get started because they try to get everything perfect. They overanalyze. Nice. This is most people. But you were willing to trust the process, trust the system, do what it took, get up at 5, 6 in the morning if you had to train, stay up until 8 p.m. making calls, even when you were tired, taking callbacks, answering these clients' questions. That is not something that everybody is willing to do. You have to understand. I used to think that, man, I'm not doing anything special. But it took me a while to observe people to realize that what you think that is normal for somebody else, it is extraordinary. So you have to remember that what's common to you is just fantastic to somebody else. So now let's talk about something fun. So the first time you saw these deposits coming into your account, 30,000, I don't know, what's the largest one, just a 2-week period so far?
About 40. Oh, well, like you mean a single deposit? Yeah, single deposit, like $42,000.
42,000. So you're getting 30,000 every 2 weeks, 40,000. It's just coming in like that. So the first one, let's talk about that moment. Seeing that those first deposits hitting your account when you know it's real. Take us through that experience. Look, when you saw it.
And I hate to even talk about that because I was driving a car at the time where I should have been looking. I was driving the car at the time. And when I tell you, I was not prepared for what I saw when I opened that account up. I had to pull the car over and I just kept looking. I was like, wait, is this real? Because I just kept feeling like it was about to disappear. I was like, this thing, I'm gonna look again and it's gonna be gone. So I looked and then I'm like, oh my God. And I just stared at it for like 10 minutes. I couldn't stop looking at it like, oh my God, is this like for real? And more of this is coming. And this is crazy. It was like a surreal moment of, I had to just pull the car over. I was literally driving at the time and had to literally pull over. And I just sat there and just stared at it for minutes. Like, I can't even believe this is sitting with me right now, all at one time. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So now that it's happening and it's continuing to happen, does it feel, when the next one comes, is it feeling more normal to you, or is it still?
It's still, every time I'm just like no, not yet. It has not gotten ordinary or normal yet. I'm still like so grateful every time I just start thanking God. I'm just like, oh my God, this is for real. Like, thank you. It's crazy. I haven't got used to it yet.
All right. So give some advice to the people who maybe be like you came from, maybe they're battling. Like I know you were, again, single mom, coming from a divorce, making it work for the family, grinding, doing what you had to do, working a job, doing this on the side, doing anything that you can. Like, give some advice to those people who may be at that point, and they may not be able to see what you have been able to live. right now. So what would you say to
Yeah,
these people listening?
you got to believe, because I believe and know it. Don't just believe it, but you got to know it, because I will tell you, there were times where me and my kid, I have a son and a daughter. And when I first moved here, I had nothing. I moved here with nothing. There were times where the power was off in our apartment. There was times where I didn't know what we were going to eat. There were times where I needed to go to work. I needed to go to work and couldn't even the check for the daycare was, I couldn't even take them back to daycare because the check bounced. So I couldn't even take the kids to daycare so that I could go to work because the check was bounced. And thank God there was a lady, a woman who lived in my apartment complex, and her name was Miss Amy, and she took my kids. But there was just what I went through, and I just want to say, where if I can do it, coming from where I came from nothing. If I can do it, you can do it. You can do it. So don't give up. But I always knew, no matter what my situation was, that wasn't the end. I always knew there was better for me. I always knew there was more for me. And I always knew that I was going to make it out of that situation. I always knew it. So you got to know it. You got to believe it. And if you believe it, because even when I was going through that, even when I didn't know how to I didn't even have enough money to put gas in my car some days I was calculating, I can't even drive this car because I don't even have enough money in the gas. Like, I can't even put gas in the car to make it to work and back for the week. Right. Like those types of decisions, daycare decisions, gas decisions. But I always knew, no matter what I was going through, when I walked into that job, nobody knew my situation. I walked in like I was making six figures. I dressed and I looked like, if you saw me, you would have never known that was my situation. So you got to believe it, but you got to know it. You got to walk it. You got to talk it. You got to be in it. And I promise you, you will be just fine. If I can make it out, anybody can.
Wow. That was excellent advice. Excellent advice. So you can do it. My point is, you can do it, you all. So let's start getting your finances in order. And then I want you to highly consider this industry, the life insurance industry, because lives are being changed right now. There's going to be a huge wealth transfer. You can be a part of it. It's not a huge barrier of entry. It's not a huge startup cost. If you focus on it, within a couple of weeks, you can get your insurance license if you really focus on it. And you can go and you can follow leaders to help you to get to that success. Don't attempt to do it on your own. You don't have to. There are people. We have a coaching program where we do training classes every single week. And then there's additional training classes that you can do. This is something that you can do and that people need. Especially if you're in the minority community, oh my God, you need it. It's underrepresented and everybody needs it, no matter who you are, where you are, why. It doesn't matter. People need this. This is one of the most lucrative industries on the planet, and you can take advantage of it. So first, I want you to just go to wealthcreationcall.com, where you can schedule some time to potentially even meet with Latoya at wealthcreationcall.com. And the second thing I want you to do is, if you have your insurance license and you're looking for some good leadership and training, or maybe you don't have your insurance license, but you're seriously considering this industry, just let us know. DM me on Instagram, or you can message me on Facebook. On Instagram, I am Marvin Mitchell Official. Latoya on Instagram is LN_resources. LN_resources. So make sure you add us, make sure you come to us and you talk to us, and we cannot wait to serve you. Latoya, you did an amazing job today. I thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for telling your story and for inspiring so many people. And this success that you're experiencing right now, this is just the beginning. I cannot wait to see what's on the other side. So let's go. With that being said, y'all, you are listening to the Thriving Money Show. We're going to help you to have more fun, have more freedom, have more finances. We are here to help your money to thrive. We are here to make sure that you're not just surviving, okay, that you are thriving. So like this, subscribe to this on YouTube, share this with as many people as you can. Let people know about what we have going on. We have weekly webinars that we're doing right now to educate people. Those are free to educate people on money. I have a 5-day challenge that's coming up in March where you can learn for 5 days to get yourself financially literate so you can be a generational curse breaker. So lock in. That challenge is that webinar is scaleyoursuccess.com. Lock in. Let's get loaded. Let's go. Thriving Money Show signing off. Let's go.